One review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is award-winning author in his debut book. And the title of the book, Against All Odds, no other than Mr. Tristian Smith. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Tristan. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Hey, good afternoon to the readers or to the listeners and viewers. My name is Tristian Smith. I'm a Nebraska based foster youth advocate, uh, former Army, former United States Army officer, as well as published author of my memoir, Against All Odds. Um, my book, Against All Odds, discusses uh, my somewhat traumatic childhood, um, from losing my mother at a young age to going through the foster care system. But it also talks about my triumphs when it comes to graduating college, becoming a United States Army officer, and then after my time in the military was over, becoming a child advocate and servicing those in the system that I once was a part of.
Mr. Tristan Smith, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. Let's talk about the book and writing process. How did you decide which moments of your life to include in the memoir?
Um, so sitting down, I knew I wanted to write a book about my time in foster care. But in order to talk about those events, I had to talk about the events that led to me being placed in foster care. Um, so I had to go back to my childhood and kind of just talk about, growing up with my mother, um, watching her pass as a 7-year-old kid, and then talking about the abuse that I suffered um, from my aunt and uncle, which led to me being placed in foster care. So uh, obviously, I discuss the instability of my childhood being in foster care, but then I also, after I aged out and transitioned into adulthood, I wanted to talk about a few of my challenges that I faced you know, during those initial few years after getting out of foster care. And then I wanted to talk about, key relationships I developed into that helped me towards my triumphs, graduating college, becoming a United States Army officer. And then, it kind of materialized into this, and, I had, a great substance for this book.
A great substance for your memoir, indeed, Mr. Tristan. Was it difficult to revisit some of the more painful parts of your story?
Yes. I think initially yes. But me being 36 at the time, going back and trying to rehash memories that I may have suppressed due to them being so traumatic was probably the hardest part. I had to get my little brother on the phone, who also endured a lot of this trauma. And he remembers more of this stuff than I did. So he was a pretty good uh, resource for helping to get all the details out of this book. When you're talking about going back and you're discussing the death of your mother, or you're discussing severe child abuse, um, it would be it would be disingenuous to say that I didn't have any issues going back and rehashing those memories.
So, Mr. Tristan, what does the title Against All Odds mean to you personally?
So, Against All Odds, I chose that title because as foster youth, We have enormous odds stacked against us when it comes to being successful as a young adult. They say that 60% of foster youth do not graduate high school, and then only 3 to 4% attain a college degree. And then to stack on top of that, studies have shown that foster youth suffer from PTSD at double the rates of U.S. war veterans. So, against all odds, I graduated high school, I attained my bachelor's, and I didn't get, not just one master's degree, but I'm working on a second master's degree at Johns Hopkins University. I'll be finished with that in December. But the more success that I acquire, it epitomizes the book's title that, hey, you're facing the odds, you're overcoming the odds, and then you're becoming a pillar of excellence that other foster youth can look towards.
Mr. Tristian, we salute you for being you. How long did it take you to write the book from the start to finish?
So it took about a year. I started in May of 2023, and then we sent the book. I want to say we sent the book off for book development, or the manuscript off for book development, probably around March or April of 2024. And then it was published July of 2024. So it took about a year.
So, Mr. Tristian, let's talk about the themes and messages. What central message or lesson do you hope readers take away from your story?
So the most powerful message my book sends is one of resilience, and it epitomizes that regardless, or it emphasizes that regardless of your circumstances or past traumas, your story doesn't define you. You have the power to shape your future through determination, resilience, and positive decision making. And, there are lessons for casual readers. You may not be associated with the foster care system. Everyone who's ever picked up a book has dealt with adversity. And, if utilized correctly, life's adversities can become stepping stones toward personal growth. If you decide to choose resilience over being a victim, you can develop a bend but don't break mentality. And then for children that are in foster care, a lot of the kids in the system have experienced severe trauma that normal people will never experience in their lifetimes. But my message to them is, again, your past experiences and present challenges don't determine your potential. Embrace your dreams, advocate for yourself, and remember that your voice matters and that you have the power to create your own success story. And then finally, to the community that supports foster youth, my message is that foster youth need stability. They need genuine care. They need consistent support. Your intentionality and compassion can significantly influence the journey of a foster youth by providing them with a solid foundation for healing and achieving lasting success.
Mr. Tristian, very well said. Beautifully articulated. Were there moments in your life when you truly felt like giving up? What kept you going?
I don't think there were moments where I ever felt like giving up. I knew that that I was part of a system that even at a young age, I would sit at the child welfare office, and I would see these posters of the overwhelming statistics that we as foster youth would face. Um, you know, and so I knew I had an uphill battle to climb. So there were times where I was discouraged uh, about the outlook of my future, but I never gave up, if that makes sense.
Never give up, people, and dream big. How did your personal struggle shape the person you are today?
I think my personal struggles, it developed a sense of resiliency and adaptability. And I think in life in general, those are two skills that society lacks greatly. They don't know how to deal uh, with adversity. They're quick to cower in the face of it instead of looking it headstrong in the face and asking themselves, what is the lesson behind this adversity, rather than why is this happening to me? You know, adversity doesn't discriminate. It hits rich people, poor people, Asian people, black people, white people. It hits everyone. So your job is to find out, what is the lesson that I need to learn from this adversity. And I think that um, that was something that being in foster care, helped me understand.
Indeed, Mr. Tristan. Did writing the memoir offer any healing or closure for you?
I wouldn't say necessarily closure, but it gave me the opportunity to give flowers, per se, to those that have helped me get here. I've, officially been able to etch the names of people who were supportive in my journey in history. This book will is going to be, this book is part of history now, and their names are associated with my story. So this book is more about giving credit to those um, who help foster youth achieve their dreams and realize their potential. So while maybe, because I think the closure part came years ago. I've went through therapy. I've been through. I've spoken to people about what I went through, and now my job right now is more to focus on foster youth who are going through some of these same things that I went through, to help them see and realize their own potential.
Definitely. To realize your really potential, people. How do you define resilience and how does it show up in your journey?
So resiliency, to me, is the ability to bounce back after going through adversity. I use the analogy, the tennis ball and the egg. Um, and if you take an egg and you drop it, it cracks. From between gravity and the pressure. As soon as it hits the ground, it's going to crack and make a mess. Whereas the tennis ball, you drop it and it bounces back. And I tell people, you want to be the tennis ball. You don't want to be the egg. You want to that resiliency that you develop. Uh, it allows you to face adversity head on, and it allows you to keep going because you know that there's something better on the other side of that adversity. What was the other part to your question?
Well, being the whole thing as a resilience, being a resilient in everything, mister. So let's talk about personal challenges and growth. What was the most challenging chapter for your life to write about?
Um, Most challenging chapter was probably the going through the abuse. Right after my mother died, me and my brother were handed over or given custody to my aunt and uncle, where they literally, anything you can think of from an abuse standpoint, they didn't like sexually abuse us, but from a physical and mental aspect, they did to us. And so I was 7 years old and my brother was 4 years old, and things such as during bath time they would try to drown us in the bathtub. Uh, we lived in Georgia, and it's 100 degrees in the summertime, and they would have us standing in the corner of the fence in our backyard for hours at a time in the blazing heat, just for just because they wanted us to. They beat us, they threw things at us. I was choked unconscious several times. Um, Going through all of that and rehashing that was probably the most difficult one. My little brother, he just turned 33, and there was an incident when we were living with our uncle. He tried to drown my little brother, and during the incident, my little brother hit his head on a corner of the bathtub, and he busted his head open and almost bled to death. So he still has a scar. He still has the scar. Like, he has a head full of hair, but if you move the hair out of the way, you'll see that scar from almost 30 years ago where that incident happened.
Sorry to hear that, Mr. Tristan. And were there moments you hesitated to share a certain truth? If so, how did you overcome that fear?
No, because the truth is the truth at the end of the day. I have, I didn't have a fear. I don't have fear of my story. My story is my story, and I feel like if I give it in its most authentic form, then it will be received as such. And so I didn't ever consider, bending the story. I wanted to present my story in as detailed of a manner as possible, so that foster youth, foster parents, you know, the child welfare professionals, and casual readers could understand what child abuse looks like, the gory details of child abuse, and then how kids end up in foster care.
So, Mr. Tristan, as a successful debut author, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Um, right now, I just want to enjoy promoting this book right here. I think um, this is my short term goal, by the way. Utilizing this book as a vehicle to inspire foster youth to be the best versions of themselves, to get through their adversity. That the foster care system is only, you'll only have to deal with it until you're 18. And then after that, if you plan properly, if you have a great support system, and you made good decisions, um, you'll have opportunities to go to college. You'll have opportunities to develop yourself as a successful member of society. My long-term goal is to maybe do a set of children's books for those in foster care, to
Yes.
maybe appeal to the younger kids. Um, so that's but that's probably a few years away.
So, Mr. Tristan, what will be your short term and long term goals in being you, as outside from writing?
So for me, I want to continue to advocate for foster youth. That is, that is going to be a lifelong commitment going forward. If it's speaking to a panel of newly licensed foster parents, if it's presenting to or getting a chance to speak to foster youth, getting a chance to speak to licensed therapists, or students who are getting involved in social work, and want to pursue being, working in child welfare, being able to tell them what to expect, giving my perspective as someone who spent 10 years in the system. Those are the things that I want to do. I just completed my first keynote speaking event for a fundraising gala last Friday, and it was amazing getting a chance to speak with so many people who are invested in foster youth. So um, that is my short and long term goal.
So, what would be your advice for those people out there who want to write their own book?
Um, I would say be authentic. Don't hide anything. Because the more authentic you are, the better of a book you're going to produce. It's going to take time. Don't expect to produce a great product the first go around, or maybe even the second go around. I had to go through several edits and revisions to get to where I was comfortable with the manuscript, um, to send it to book development. Another thing, um, don't don't be afraid to take your time with it. Don't rush it. I took a year to write my book. Some people take 4, 5, 6, 7 years to write their book. So take your time, and then find a publishing company that is going to uh, understand your story and be able to help you articulate it to the best of your ability.
Yes, for the best of your ability, people. And thank you for your advice and good luck to your goals in life, Mr. Tristan. So let's talk about the reader impact and response. How have readers responded to Against All Odds?
Um, I've gotten a lot of good feedback from my book, and this is from people who work in child welfare. They were able to take a lot of lessons um, from my book. They were able to, I guess, better identify what the trauma that kids are coming into the system with, or going through the system with, so that they could better help them with. You know, I've gotten good reviews from actual foster parents,
Mm.
who's I've gotten a chance to sit down with child advocate volunteers who, we have a book club here as part of one of my organizations, and they chose to do my book back in March. And the questions that they have, the excitement they have for a book like mine, has been overwhelming. So
Congratulations, Mr. Tristan. Do you plan to write another book or follow up memoir?
um as of this time, no, not right. No, my so in my memoir, I wrote a chapter directly to foster youth about how they can better set themselves up for success. So um, I would probably, in addition to writing um, the set of children's books that I mentioned earlier, it would probably be a book where I just wrote an entire book of life lessons from a former foster youth to current foster youth.
How has your life changed since publishing Against All Odds?
Well, I've gotten a lot of interest from child welfare organizations that want me to come and um, speak with them or to them. I've gotten invites to come and speak on panels to foster parents. Because of my book, I was able to get uh, my first speaking engagement last Friday. It went very well, and that speaking event is probably going to lead to several more later this year. But um, I've received amazing feedback, and I want to continue to emphasize how important my book is to the child welfare community.
Indeed. Congratulations again, Mr. Tristan. So, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do uh, visit my Book 101 review merchandise. Write it your future style, people, because Book 101 review merchandise, where literature meets lifestyle. Read it, wear it, live it. That's the Book 101 way. You can shop wherever you want under Book 101 review merchandise. We have mags, what else? Caps, t-shirt, and many more. So please do visit Book 101 review merchandise. So, Mr. Tristan, if you could say one thing to your younger self, what would it be?
Um, Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. You can't control things that people around you do to you, or um, or adversities that happen to you, but you can control how you act and how you respond, and when it comes to enduring and getting through those adversities.
Yes, people don't care what people say about you, and be yourself, Mr. Tristan Smith. Thank you so much for sharing your memoir to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your memoir itself?
You can go on Amazon to check out Against All Odds. It's also on Barnes and Nobles, and it's also on Books a Million.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Tristian Smith, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Tristan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.